about how your defense played in the game?
Well, I think number one, the thing that you just keep hanging on to is the fact that we made a play at the end to win the game, and then when you don't get the type of performance that you hope for or work towards, it may feel like you're grabbing at straws to hang on to that, but man, that's the purpose behind taking the field, and so certainly I want to. That trumps all it does, because the name of the game is certainly we feel a whole lot different if we don't make that play at the end. But I think just as you look at it, there's certain times where you see a good defense and one that we can be proud of. I think there's other times that obviously we fall well short of that. I think part of that ties into maybe. I've mentioned you guys trust in the past. I just get kind of you're always searching for answers, but that emotional stability element of things. Like when things are going good, are we giving ourselves too much credit as to the next series is going to be that much better or quote unquote easier. On the flip side is when things aren't going our way, are we allowing one play to turn into two? And I think I may have mentioned it on Saturday is why does one tackle turn into a worst tackling performance of the night? Or again, it starts with one, but obviously it goes. Why does one slip in coverage turn into 4 or 5 slips in coverage that extend drives? And so, again, I think you can never come up with just one thing, but I think that's kind of a glaring thing over the last couple of weeks in terms of. Again, emotional stability. And again, as a coach, it's on us to instill that in them. That when we're in those moments, both positive and negative, that we can, remain focused and get our jobs done. So we got to do a better job.
Kenneth Murray was so good in the first 7 games. The last couple of games, he hasn't been as productive. He doesn't seem to be as aggressive. Is that because teams are scheming that way and maybe taking him out of it, or is it something else that's going on, or what do you think's happening with him?
No, I think the lack of aggression probably isn't accurate, but I think some of it's pressing. I think a lot of times when there's only. We like everybody on our defense to be playmakers. You get 11 of them and 11 behind them, and this thing rolls. But he certainly is one of those guys, and I think he puts a lot on his shoulders, and we put a lot on his shoulders, and so you kind of have the weight of the world on you as that Mike linebacker helping to get guys lined up, and you feel like. It's certainly in those moments of a play needs to be made. Well, I'm going to go make it, and so I think that that's one thing with him is he's dying to make every single play. Maybe if you asked him, he expects to have name the amount of plays we played. He expects to make a tackle on every one, and some of those are going to be TFLs and sacks. And so what he needs to do is be the Mike linebacker and play his tail off, and it's never an effort issue. It's again, I think it's simply like name a quarterback, a running back, a receiver, and it applies to our side of the ball as well. As guys dying to make a play, but sometimes it can kind of work against you. And so there's been a little bit of that, but certainly he's a guy that when he's out there, we feel like he can and will make one for us eventually.
Can you put your finger on what's behind the tackling issues that y'all had on Saturday?
I think some of it obviously there's space and speed issues, and when you're coming from maybe further away, then does that start again rewind the tape and go back to at the snap of the football? Are we not as aggressive at the snap? Did we not place our eyes where they belong in terms of getting us in a position that there's less space between me and the ball carrier? So that happens. Obviously again every play is unique in that way. It's different individuals come from different angles and those things, but again to dumb it down to one thing, it's space and speed, and we got to make sure that we talk about having a system of tackling where we're pressing hips and keeping shoulder leverage. If he's on my right, keep him on my right. Simple as it sounds, it is. If he's on my left, keep him on my left. And some of those instances, by and large, you saw guys in an attempt to take away the space between me and the ball carrier. I thought, more so this time out than in the past. I thought we were out of control. And so it's one thing to, again, space, eliminate that with speed, but you had that at or near the point of contact, you got to get yourself under control. And so that's fundamentals, and it comes back to coaching.
Is style of play part of this?
I'm sorry.
Is style of play part of the problem? The two teams that are giving you trouble now have been physical teams. Kansas State's got that great O-line. Sure. Iowa State's got the big tight ends. Is that Is that part of the equation?
Well, I think you always got to match physicalness. That's one. I mean, that puts you on an even playing field. But then you know, the goal every Saturday is obviously to out physical your opponent. I think there's physical plays that you look at that in certain drives where you say, well, we out physical them. I think there's other drives, specifically at the beginning of the third quarter. I trumpet that. I thought we got very much out physical that particular drive, which is, you know, for us coming out of halftime to allow that to happen as a coaching staff is an indictment against us. I mean, we're going to make sure that get them out of the locker room, get them ready to go, and that to me was, you know, specifically the drive where I saw a lack of physicalness, specifically in the run game. But and then there's other instances, and then you know I look at, you know, kind of that one particular drive, the first full drive of the fourth quarter where it's just a knockout, drag out, slugfest between two teams, and I thought we held up very well, and so I think that you know we got to make sure that we're matching physicalness and making sure that we're doing it for much longer stretches of the time than we have the last 2 weeks.
Alex,
and we can.
Alex, I mean, obviously, this is going to be a game where their crowd will really be into it. You feel like, you know, these guys learned something at Kansas State with the crowd and keeping composure and things like that would happen with Motley in that game.
Well, I think you need to. I think, you know, to not draw from past experiences, you know, positively and negatively. You know, whether it's technique or fundamentals of football wise, or again, I go back to the emotional stability. Obviously, we lacked it. You know, in Groves, you know, at Kansas State, and it's not just one. I mean, that was the extreme of the extreme in Motley's case, but, you know, across the board. And then we got to look at ourselves as coaches. I mean, what are we doing? You know, obviously in the moment, within drives. You know, is my play calling, is in my attempt to help? Am I actually hurting? I mean, those are things that you got to analyze, you got to look at, and you also got to accept that, you know, when you're on the road, the good play, it's only going to be cheered by the guy next to you and then the group of guys on the sideline. If you're looking for that moment of energy coming from anywhere other than yourself, it's going to be a long night for you. And so I think that's a real good lesson, especially for the younger guys that maybe, you know, haven't been in those moments as much as some of the other guys, is that, you know, your energy is what you bring with you. If you're looking for a play to happen that's going to get you going, we'll take advantage of those as well, but it's probably going to be too late if that's your mindset, because again, you're not going to have the home crowd to get you going, and so but that's the exciting part about playing the you know, college football at our level, is you get the opportunity to go on the road in some great environments. We expect that on Saturday.
What's your thoughts on Baylor?
Well, I think they're a talented team. I think you know, once again, you know, great quarterback play, great skill. I think they have a great system that they believe in. You know, spread the ball around, make you, you know, kind of thin you out in terms of the ability to both run it and throw it. And you know, they're going to watch us over the last 2 weeks and feel very confident in their ability to move the football against Oklahoma. And so that's something that we're going to have a great week of practice to help curb that.
Alex, Kenneth wasn't putting up huge numbers since he returned. Certainly was part of that rotation. What does his absence do? Kenneth, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's unfortunate. I mean, there's four, you know, kind of would-be starters type of thing that are out for the year for us, and so you know, we'll miss them. And you talk about some younger guys that, you know, when I mentioned the emotional stability, a lot of times you circle some of the younger guys, and so who do they turn to? Some of the older guys, and then, you know, you talk about being in, you know, on stages in tough, you know, road environments. I mean, he's another one that's been in it. And so certainly you lose that, and you lose the depth that comes with it. And I'm sick for him. You know, it's you know, as a senior, you know, obviously missed time early in the year. You know, coming off of surgery in the summer, and then to be in this situation, again, that's the, you know, kind of the real world aspect of what we do. As much as you want to win in football games, and it's a shame to see a guy that's worked so hard for a long. And obviously, I haven't been here for his entire career, but you know, obviously being some elite moments at Oklahoma, and to end it that way is unfortunate.
And regarding kind of some of the guys at that position are up front, you know, there were 9 sacks, and I think the standard for the tackles for loss and sacks were up to what you liked against Texas, but then it's been just different since.
Yeah, there's a lot of difference.
Yeah, why has that maybe not necessarily why has that been, but what's kind of behind that? I mean, why has that been so difficult since then?
Yeah, I think there's some instances on film where you say you're close and close doesn't matter. Close doesn't get it done. I mean, it's results. So what does that look like? That looks like being that much better in coverage to give those guys an opportunity. How do you gain that one click between making or disrupting the pass versus making a sack, for instance? And I think again it's 11 guys working together. It's is our mindset at the snap that we're going to make every single play? Do we believe that? Are we looking for that perfect stunt or call that's going to allow me to be free? Well, the free rush isn't coming. You got to create it. And so those are instances obviously where that takes place. And I think from a TFL standpoint, I think again it goes back to the physical play. You have to out physical your opponent. The willingness to get blocked. If I get blocked, and I say it to you because I say it to the guys, is if you're willing to get blocked, now we're playing with 10. The idea, and specifically in a penetrating style scheme, to say that I held point, I got the A gap. Well, that's step one, and we better do step one before we do step two. But for every individual that gets blocked and says it's okay, I get blocked, who are you saying is going to make the tackle on that down? And I've seen that a little bit over the last couple of weeks.
Alex Parnell had the big play at the end of the game, but how did he play overall? And did you see what you wanted to see out of him over the 2 weeks after the mistake he had?
Yeah, he had a tough 2 weeks, and a lot of it's self-inflicted. And so there's lessons there for him and for everybody. But I thought he performed pretty well the other night. I really did. I had an opportunity, unfortunately, to kind of down the same road early in the game to have an opportunity to get an interception. That once again we're not finding a way to make that play. But thrilled, we say takeaways equal victory, and we haven't held up our end. We just haven't. But that's a pretty good visual at the tail end of the game. Someone had to make a play, and by the way, takeaways do equal victory because they didn't make it, we did, and so that's something that kind of provides a visual, and obviously thrilled for him that he made it, and thrilled for us.
I asked you last week about if there's anybody behind Turner Yell, and if it was Justin Broyles as well. After the plays and how they played on Saturday, are you working any more guys in there with that ones group, or is it just sticking with those guys?
No, just sticking with those guys. And Troubles, Delancey's played really well for us over the course of the year, and obviously, coming off of getting dinged a couple weeks ago, and he certainly did not have his best game, and I coach him, so it's on me.
What do you make of how Jaden Davis is playing, especially over these last few games? Obviously, it's such a big part of what y'all are doing.
Yeah, and he's a guy. The thing that you don't do is that circle the freshman and say that this come up with all his problems. What we need to do is we got to help Jaden Davis. And so I think his best football continues to be in front of him. I think he's had some opportunities to make plays. Hasn't come up with them the last couple of weeks. He's not the only one. But couldn't be more thrilled about where he can be, will be moving forward, and he'll learn from that. And we're so excited about Jake.
Brewer and Mims, what kind of threat are they as a combo?
Well, it's explosive plays. I mean, it's a 5-yard throw that turns into a 70-yarder, or it's an opportunity to blow the top off and get behind you DB wise. And so, when you have the home run threats, and he's not the only one, but when you have the home run threats, it really is an eye opener for not just your secondary, but the guys up front have to understand that going back to from a timing standpoint, you got to try to get home as fast as you can because that ball's coming out and there's an elite guy that can do something with it.
Baylor, we saw that explosiveness in Stillwater. They really hurt OSU with that. The last 2 weeks, they've only got 2 offensive touches against TCU and West Virginia. What's going on that offense is sort of stagnated in Waco?
Yeah, I think you used the comment about being close at times when describing some of our opportunities. I think they would probably describe themselves that same way, close to those explosives, close to those opportunities to punch it in, and if and when they can do that, all of a sudden the scoreboard goes in their favor a little bit more extreme, and they're counting in sevens and those things. So, no, I speak to that because you see it on film that there's some opportunities that I'm sure they feel like they missed.
Do you find yourself needing to repair people's psyches sometimes after bad games versus after a really good game like the Texas game? You got to kind of talk them down a
Sure.
little bit.
No, I think part of it is number one. You're always trying to take a consistent approach. Don't be too high when it's high. Again, it's a 1 week eval, and try so hard. And like most coaches, I'm no different and probably the players as well. Is the lows are low now. I mean, you got to pick yourself up. Number one, and number two, be a hopefully a model to the guys. But no, that's a big element to this thing is making sure from a confidence standpoint that you're providing that as a coach. Obviously, the chief way that you get confidence is you go out there and do it. And so you certainly draw from things at practice, just like a basketball player. If you're shooting well in practice, you're going to feel a little bit better in the game. And so that's one of those things as we go through it is you don't want to accept poor performance, but as the individual, you got to. And again, so this is not me saying it's okay, because it's not okay. That's the big picture view as a defensive coordinator. Well, I'm in charge and it's my fault. But as a player, as an individual player that's in the arena, they really have to take that individual approach and say, okay, why didn't I get the result? How is an effort issue? Is a preparation issue? What is it so that I make shots on Saturday? And in a basketball analogy, or I'm 0 for 4 in the batter's box the last 3 times out. How do I curb that? And a lot of times it's not making some big change to some of the things that you do, but it's dialing back in and maybe kind of a small picture approach. And so no, you do. And so what you're trying to do is try to provide those opportunities over the course of the week so they can draw from them. Again, takeaways in practice and making a big deal about them. Making plays in practice and making a big deal about them. Third down stops in practice and making a big deal about them. So you're trying to create those scenarios. Again, by no means does that make it real. And but at the same token is that's what you have Monday through Friday, and you got to use it.